Welcome to Orbital and what we do. So essentially, Orbital has developed an array of patented technology that is currently disrupting the military drone engine market. We design and manufacture and ship our engines to global tier 1 defence companies. So we're excited about the growth opportunities for the company because the market in of itself is significant, with worldwide UAV production at 95.5 billion over the next 10 years forecasted. And for the particular style of drones that we provide engines for, the tactical UAVs or tactical drones, there's forecast to be about 15.7 billion spent over the next 10 years. Now, just before I get into what we do and why it's special, obviously we build engines for tactical drones. These are defence drones. And on the next slide that I've flicked over to, we just talk about the tactical drone is a system for a tactical drone is worth about $1.5 to $4 million each. They generally carry state-of-the-art electronic payloads. So this is visual cameras, nighttime, daytime, that carry sort of laser terrain mapping and other electronic warfare payloads. It means that they are very commercially and strategically sensitive. So they need an engine that runs extremely reliably, efficiently, that can bring these sensitive payloads home. The difficulty is the engines that they use need to run on the logistical fuel supply, which is jet fuel. We don't like highly volatile gasoline out on mission compounds or out on Navy vessels. So we run on something that's called jet fuel or heavy fuel. It's a kerosene-based fuel. And typically it's very difficult to run the sort of engines that you need in these lightweight tactical drones on this heavy fuel. And this is where Orbital comes in. This is where we have a particular technology or an array of patents that enables us to run an engine significantly better than our closest competitor. And I'll just move on to the next slide to talk a little bit more about that. We have a fuel injection system and a manufacturing and design system that enables us to build an engine that runs for 10 times as long as our closest competitor before you need to do a major overhaul. So a significant advantages for those men and women that are out on site. They do not need to do any maintenance on these engines. Another significant advantage is that our fuel technology in this engine enables you to start the engine in about 2 minutes. That's the time it takes for you to walk up and fire it up. Every other engine that runs on this heavy fuel requires at least 20 minutes for a warm-up cycle. So you can imagine the advantage when you need eyes in the sky quickly, you walk up, start, and your drone's flying up into the air, not waiting 20 minutes to warm up your engines as a pre-start process. The third most significant advantage is that we pass a reliability standard. It's the only engine in this class that passes the manned aviation standard for reliability. So we actually do that back-to-back 3 times. So again, it's the only unmanned engine in its field that passes this sort of reliability standard, and we can do that because the technology that we have enables us to run these engines on this heavy fuel very reliably. I now put a bit of sort of evidence to what we have and how it is a bit of a disruptor. We talk about a contract that we have with Boeing-Insitu. Insitu is a subsidiary of the Boeing Defence Group. Insitu design and build all of Boeing's unmanned defence tactical drones. Boeing-Insitu has contracted Orbital to design and then set up 5 distinct engine production lines to fit out its entire fleet of tactical drones. So we have a slide here that says we have 5 engine production lines to set up to fit out Boeing-Insitu's current 4 styles of tactical drones on the right-hand side. Now, where are we with that contract? We have 2 engine production lines in operation, and each one of those production lines can target somewhere between $10 to $20 million of annual revenue. When we get the third engine production line up and operating, that will be another $10 to $20 million of annual revenue, and likewise through 4 and 5. Each one of these engines is being designed and the production line being commissioned in serial, not parallel, and each new engine takes somewhere between 12 to 18 months to get into operation. I just note that on each one of these engines, we make roughly around a gross margin of 40%, but I'll get into some financials at the end of the slide. Not only did Boeing-Insitu contract us to fit out their entire fleet with our superior engines, but earlier this year, another tier one, so a multi-billion-dollar tier one US defense company, Textron, contracted Orbital to design and commission an engine production line for one of their vehicles. Now, Textron happens to be the US's largest supplier of tactical drones. So what we would like to do is emulate or replicate what we've done with Boeing-Insitu, and on the confidence of Textron, when we supply them the engine that we are currently commissioned to design and then manufacture for them, that we'd like to win further engine designs for their remaining fleet of vehicles. I'll move on to key milestones that we've achieved over the last 18 months. And one is obviously being the primary engine supplier to Boeing-Insitu to supply our engines across their entire fleet, with, in the last 18 months, 2 of the 5 engine production lines now in operation and working on the 3rd. We have that new contract I just spoke about with Textron to design a new engine and set up an engine production line for Textron. Again, another $10 to $20 million opportunity. And then an announcement we made with a Singapore defense company, so a government-owned Singapore defense company, to assist and then design and manufacture and supply engines for their domestic tactical drone application. We also announced recently an R&D contract with Northrop Grumman to work on a hybrid engine for some opportunities that they're looking at. And I'd say that looking forward, we'd be looking at announcing further contracts with additional tier one defense companies. Our revenue in FY19 was 15 million. Our revenue in FY20 was 33.8. And our revenue in FY21 would be now 30 to 40 million. We announced early in the year that we downgraded that from 40 to 50 down to 30 to 40 because Boeing-Insitu lost 1 or 2 contracts really that they had penned in, and that had a direct impact on our sales of engines. Interestingly enough, those contracts have gone to Textron, and we would hope that our customer diversification strategy will prevent these revenue fluctuations in the future. So if one company is missing a contract, another company is winning it, then we're supplying engines on that company's tactical drones. Such is the product differentiation or the superiority of our engines in this space. I'll move quickly on an outlook. So that's what we've achieved over the last 18 months. Look at now what we'll be delivering over the next 12. We'll have that 3rd engine. So we've got 2 engine production lines for Boeing. We'll have the 3rd engine production line in operation at the end of this financial year. We'll have in Q4 of the financial year 21, we'll have the Singapore Defence Company engine. I'm hoping that we'll have that engine in operation and being shipped to Singapore. We'll have in HYFY22 the Boeing-Insitu 4th engine development program initiated. And in H2 of FY22, we'll have that Textron engine production line operation. So really we're looking at adding 2 additional engines into production and progressing a number of development programs that will take probably another sort of 12 to 18 to get into production. Outside of the 12 to 18 month view, there are a couple of very exciting global opportunities. So the US has one of its largest tactical drone fleets looking to be replaced. They've down selected a number of companies to work on that replacement. We're happy to say we're working with Textron on engines for that opportunity. And we'd like to be announcing other participants such as Martin UAV, L3 Harris or Arcturus, working with them in due course. In Australia, sort of more domestically, there is a LAN 129 and then also the Royal Australian Navy that's working on a C129 program. We're very confident that we'll be able to announce soon that we are the engine provider of choice for those tenders, and that bodes well for, again, further growth for our product. And I think just to wrap up or in closing, and I was talking about some financials. So number one, we are a cash flow positive generating business. We generate operational profit. And as we add engines, we add $10 to $20 million to the top line. We manage our business at a group 40% gross margin, and our total overheads, or all our costs underneath gross profit, is in the order of $10 million. So we have significant leverage as we add engines now that we've built our company. We have transitioned over the last 3 years from a clever engineering company into an aerospace manufacturer. We have set up our infrastructure and our people, and we now look to generate some improving revenues year on year when we add these particular engines into our revenue stream. So a fairly straightforward business built on some very clever patented technology that enables us to have a product that is significantly differentiated from our competition. That's evidenced by the recent contract awards with Boeing-Insitu and Textron, and we'd hope to announce 1 or 2 further over the next 12 months. So, Jared, I think that finishes my presentation on what Orbital is, what our opportunity is, and particularly what the opportunity in the current market, the geopolitical tensions, the defence budgets that are increasing for particularly unmanned and cyber, and unmanned is definitely in our wheelhouse. So we're a little excited about our opportunities going forward, but I'd sort of probably hand back to yourself and open up for any questions.
Sure. Just a couple of questions, Todd. So there was one question about competitive advantage, but I think we should already mention about the engine being very quick to start, very low time to prepare. What is the biggest engine provider in this field globally?
I beg your pardon?
What would you say is the biggest engine provider that is very similar to you guys for unmanned UAVs?
Yeah, it's interesting. The market is dominated by a lot of small engine providers that used to build engines for hobby scaled down aircrafts. And they have grown with this market, but have been requested or required to significantly improve their engines or develop something that will enable these engines to run on this heavy fuel. And that's where the opportunity for Orbital has opened up. So there isn't a dominant player. I mean, we would hope that we will be the dominant player given sort of another 3 to 4 years. But currently the market is dominated by a lot of either family-owned or small sort of businesses that used to supply engines into that hobby aircraft market.
Right, and I understand that in the Australian federal budget, they recently announced about $270 billion in the defence contract. How do you think this will be materialized for Orbital?
We're confident with the minister that came through and visited our facility last week, the Defence Spending Minister. We are encouraged that the actual defence spend in unmanned has probably the largest allocation of funds, something like $2 billion in spending for this unmanned space. And like I said, there are 2 contracts on the go now, LAN 129 and C129, that we'd hope that will generate some interest for us and opportunities in revenue growth for us in the short term.
Right, and just to speak about the MOU with the Singapore defense company, I know that these things might take a while to materialize sometimes. So what do you think is the expected timeline, or what should investors be looking out for?
We'd hope to announce that we'll send our first prototype engine across to Singapore before this financial year is out. And then we will continue to update the market as we progress with that. We're encouraged with the relationship with the Singapore Defence Company, and we're very excited with what they're developing and the engine that we're providing for them. So I think the market will hear a lot more about that over the next 3 to 6 months.
Sounds good. All right. And any closing statements for the investors out there? What should they look forward to in the next 6 to 12 months?
I think if our presentation will obviously be available. We're a publicly listed company, and we've announced it just prior to this interview. So when you look through that, you can see that what we've achieved in the last 18 months. You can have a look at what we're going to go and deliver on in the next 12 months, and then you factor that in with these engines working somewhere between $10 to $20 million in revenue, 40% gross margin, our overheads are 10 million, and you start to go and do the maths and then look at what an attractive potentially investment opportunity this business is.
All right.